Hey guys, Jamie at the Summer Rain channel. Welcome back. So today we're going to be making something super easy and absolutely adorable. I'm going to show you how to make your own melt and pour soaps that are shaped like a heart candy or a heart fudge for Valentine's Day. They're so darn cute. Even if you're a beginner, you can absolutely make these melt and pour soaps. They are super easy to make and they turn out looking absolutely adorable. I did put the full recipe down in the description box below. I also put a link to my blog, so if you want to hop over there and check it out, you certainly can. Without further ado, let's dive in and just learn how to make these. So we're going to go ahead and start by cutting up our melt and pour soap base. Now I'm going to be using a clear soap base. You can certainly use a white one if you'd like. However, if you use a white soap base, what's going to happen is it's going to turn out to be more of like a pastel color. You get a more vibrant, true color when you use clear melt and pour soap than you do when you use white. So either's fine, just a white would give you a more pastel-y color. When you're cutting these up, what you kind of want to do is, it doesn't really matter what size they are. What matters is they're pretty consistent in size, so then it's kind of melting at the same temperature. So as you can see, those are all pretty consistent, you know, all roughly the same size. There's no huge chunks in there. Next, what we're going to do is go ahead and grab our scale, put a heat safe container on, well actually a microwave safe container, and then push the tare button. Now I'm going to go ahead and put 1.5 ounces of melt and pour soap in here for the first batch, and we will pop this in the microwave until it's completely melted. So typically you want to put it in there for like five minutes. Typically you want to put it in there for like 5 to 10 seconds and then give it a good mix. That should be enough to melt it. If not, do another 5 to 10 seconds. The reason why we melt it like this is we don't want it to get too hot, because then your soap gets burnt and you can tell because it's really bubbly, and then your soap turns out being kind of rubbery when it's finished. So let me go melt this really quick. And what we're going to do is go ahead and turn our scale on again, tare it, and then we're going to go ahead and measure out our fragrance oil. And then we'll set this off to the side for now. Okay, so I went ahead and pulled this out of the microwave. I'm going to go ahead and add the fragrance oil. And at the same time, I'm going to add some cappuccino mica powder. And then we'll just give that a really good mix. If you have trouble getting the mica powder to mix in, sometimes it just doesn't want to mix and it kind of clumps at the top. If you run into that, go ahead and just spray the top with some rubbing alcohol, and that will help disperse the mica powder in there for you. Now when you're mixing, make sure you mix the bottom and sides really well, because it's easy to miss little bits of that. And then we will go ahead and grab our mold, and we're going to pour our soap in there. Now when you're pouring, you want to pour close to the container and pretty slow. We want to try to prevent getting any bubbles in the soap if we can. So by pouring closer to it and then kind of slow, you prevent getting a bunch of bubbles in there. And then what we'll do is we're just going to spray the top with rubbing alcohol. What this does is any of the bubbles on the top, it goes ahead and pops them. And I'm just going to add a little bit more to this one. It was kind of empty. And that one too. And then I'll spray it again. I'm also going to make some white chocolate hearts. So for this, I'm using white melt and pour soap. Same thing, you're just going to cut it up into chunks and then pop it in the microwave for 5 to 10 seconds. Mix it really well, and then when it's fully melted, go ahead and pull it out. So to the white melt and pour soap, I'm going to go ahead and add our fragrance oil. If you only have clear melt and pour soap, you can certainly use that. Just add a little bit of titanium dioxide, or you can add white mica powder to make it a white color. I'm just using the white melt and pour soap because it's already white and it kind of saves me a step. And we'll do the same thing in these molds. So we're going to pour it in there really slow and close to the container. And then I'm going to spray the tops with rubbing alcohol. We're going to allow this to cool completely. So these are pretty small molds. So I'm going to say this is going to take like 10 to 15 minutes to cool all the way. And then we'll go ahead and pull it out of the container. Now that our soap has cooled completely, I'm going to go ahead and remove it from the mold. So to do that, I found that the easiest way is kind of to pull apart on the edges and then kind of pop it out. So you pull apart and then you kind of push up from the bottom. Now on this one I over poured a little bit. Now there is a tool that you can use, but the simplest way is just to take your nail and kind of pinch it off and then just rub like that, and you won't even be able to tell that there's any imperfections. Before you start drizzling, I wanted to give you just like 2 quick pieces of advice. The first one is don't be afraid to make a mistake. Like, I know when I'm getting ready to try something new, I tend to freak out a little bit. These are super forgiving soaps, so if you mess up when you're doing the drizzle, you can absolutely like scrape this off with your nail and it's going to peel up pretty easy while it's warm, and you can redo it. So you can do it as many times as you have to get the soaps how you want them to be. The second piece of advice that I'd have before you start pouring is when you're pouring, start pouring about right here and then pour over the soap. So you're not starting pouring directly on the soap, because sometimes that can get kind of blobby. So start pouring above the soap and then keep pouring, go all the way down and then come back. So as you'll see when I'm pouring it, you'll get quite a bit up here and quite a bit down here. That's because the middle part of the pour typically looks the best. And it's really easy to get off your counter or off wax paper if you put that down. So don't be afraid to make a mistake. Don't be afraid to make a mess. It's super easy to either fix your mistakes or clean up your mess. So we're going to go ahead and drizzle these two. I want the color to be more pastel, so I'm going to use a white soap base. I'm going to pop this into the microwave and melt it real quick. When I'm doing the drizzle, I don't worry about scenting it because it's such a small amount of soap. Now we'll just give this a good mix. And I'm kind of having some troubles getting that to mix in, so what you do is just take some rubbing alcohol, spray the top, and then it'll mix in a little bit better. Now I make sure that I get the sides and the bottom and everything really good, just to make sure it's all one color. Now, if at any point it gets too thick for you, you can absolutely remelt it. Like, you can remelt this as many times as you need to. So don't worry that you have to super rush or anything. Now, I'm just going to use the cup to drizzle it, but you can certainly use a spoon or a pipette or whatever you'd like to do the drizzle. And then we'll do the same thing on the white. I'm trying to see if you can see here. I'm just trying to get like a thin stream. And then I just kind of go back and forth. Now it's only going to take a few seconds, and then you can go ahead and move the soap. Now in this one, I'm going to do 2 clear and a white soap base, so just a little bit of a mixture of the two. To the soap base, I'm going to add just a little bit of the cappuccino and give that a good mix. Same thing, I'm gonna mix it up really well, making sure that I do the bottom and the sides and get everything mixed in there. And then I do a very slow drizzle. So I just noticed that on this one I drizzled the bottom and not the top, so I'm gonna have to re-drizzle that one. But I did want to show you how to make a white. So I had mentioned earlier that you didn't have to have white melt and pour soap, and then here I am using it. So I'm going to take some clear melt and pour soap, and then I'll show you how to make it white. So what we're going to want to do is just add a little bit of titanium dioxide in here, and then we'll mix it in exactly the same as you would with a mica powder until we get to a white color. And the same thing, you want to make sure you mix the bottoms, the sides, give everything a really good mix. And I'm going to spray this with some rubbing alcohol. The rubbing alcohol just helps to disperse it a little bit. And then we will go ahead and drizzle these. Because this one I drizzled the bottom and not the top, I'm going to add our pink back in here. I'm actually going to heat that up a little bit. Do this one right here. And sometimes I really won't like one, so what I will do is I'm actually just going to peel all of the drizzle off, and it's not super hard to do. And then I'm just going to re-drizzle it because I'm really not liking the white on the pink. I think I'm going to go a little bit darker and make it more of a red color and see if I like that better. Okay, these are my favorite, these two. So just the white and the brown chocolate colors turned out to be my favorite. I don't even know that I had to whip any pink out at all. Let me know in the comments below which one's your favorite, and I hope you enjoy making and using your soap hearts as much as I do. Bye!